Welcome to Stillworks and Brewing. My name is Randy. This is a channel that's all about home distillation and brewing. What do we got going on today? Well, everybody knows it's apple season, and I am going to make an apple ale. I've never done this before, so this is an experiment. What I'm going to do is I got me a pumpkin recipe that I've used for years, and I'm going to substitute the apples for the pumpkin. Okay, so this ought to be pretty interesting. I don't think you want to miss this. Okay, so let's get started. But first, there's something I always ask you to do, and it's because it's very important. If you subscribe to the channel, hey, thanks a million. Okay, if you haven't got a chance to do that yet, please hit that button down there. It only takes a second. Okay, leave a comment if you want to. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Share this with your friends, and if you like what you see, at the end, give us a thumbs up. Okay, so now let's get started. Okay, so I got some water in my brew pot there. I'm heating it up. It's about 160 degrees, so I'm on 165, something like that. I'm gonna add that to my mash tun. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start getting these grains steeping in. And I'll put the recipe in the description box, so in case you would like to make it. So the first thing I'm going to put in is I got some, let me get a pair of scissors, some 2-row barley, I do have a strainer in the bottom of my mash tun. So let's get the barley mixed in. So just kind of pour it in slow, get it all mixed up so we don't get no dough balls. My 2-row. Make sure that's mixed in. And that was 10.5 pounds of 2-row. Okay. So the next we got is a MUNICH malt. And that is 2 pounds of MUNICH malt. I know this turns out to be a very good pumpkin ale. I've used this same base recipe for a lot of different things. You know, if you go back, I've made pumpkin whiskey out of it. You can use this grain. Alright, so there's the MUNICH malt. Alright, the next thing is a 1/2 pound of Crystal 80. And the last is a CaraPils Dextrine. So we'll add that in. Okay, so let me check my temperature. Because what we're looking for is right around 140. That's 120. 130. I think I might have to add just a little bit of hot water. Get that water stirred in. See what we got now. 120, 130. 140, 141, just a little bit more. It's important to get to the right temperature. So what it was, the video before this one was on, I made an apple rye whiskey because I went to an orchard. I was on vacation and they had a nice orchard up in the mountains, and I got me a bushel of apples, so I got to make something out of it. Okay, that's perfect. It's 145. Okay, that's perfect. We're going to leave it right there. It might be 146. One last stir. Put the lid on it. Alright, so what I'll do, I'm going to set the timer for an hour. We're going to let that steep for an hour, and then we'll be back. So what I'm going to end up doing right now is I'm going to finish heating up the water I have left in my brew pot. And I'll probably get near boiling, and then I'll pump it over into my hot liquor tank and save that for the sparging part of it. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll be back. While I'm waiting for my grains to mash in, I'm going to get some apples ready. We have 5 pounds of apples, and if you've seen my other video about the apple whiskeys, I'm doing basically the same process. I'm going to put it through the food processor and chew them all up. Whoop, dropped a piece. So it's 5 pounds minus that little piece. do love apples, and I like pumpkin too. I would like to make me some more pumpkin whiskey. Alright, so let me get a little water. I found you have to put some water in here to get these to chew up. Then we're going to make a slurry. Okay, so let me get the rest of these apples done, then we'll be back. Okay, so it's been about an hour and 20 minutes. Smells so good. Okay, so what we're going to do is start draining this off into our brew pot. Let's take a look at that. I do love the smell of beer. Okay, so what I want to do is I've hooked my hoses up to my hot liquor tank. So I've drained this off once. I'm going to pump some nice good hot water in here, and we're going to try to flush the sugars out of this grain. So let me turn that on. And then what I'll do is I'll keep doing this until I collect about 6 gallons, maybe 6.5 gallons of wort. And then we're going to start the boiling process. Come to a boil. I turn my timer on for 1 hour. You got to be really watch this because it will boil over and make an extreme mess. So you got to be ready to cut the temperature back. Alright, so she's boiling pretty good. So the next step I got is put our apple slurry in. Ooh. Made a mess. Imagine that, me make a mess. Okay, so we got our apples in. So we'll bring it back up to a boil because I calmed it down. Okay, so I brought her back up to a boil. Let me calm her down just a little bit. Yeah. Alright, and we'll make our first hop addition, which is Northern Brewer hops. We're going to put them in. Like I said, I got the timer set. I set it for 1 hour, a 1 hour boil. Our next hop addition will be at 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and let this do its thing. And okay, it's 30 minutes addition. This is Kent Goldings hops. 1 ounce. Okay, so the next addition will be some spices at 10 minutes at the end of the boil. Okay, so we'll see you then. Okay, so now I got 10 minutes left in the boil, so let's add in the rest of our, we're going to add our spices in now. So the first spice we're going to put in is 2.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. So let's get that added in. I love cinnamon. Alright, the next is 1.5 teaspoons of nutmeg. Add that in. And the last is 1.5 teaspoons of allspice. Alright, so we're going to let that go in for the last 10 minutes of the boil. And then what we'll do is we'll show you how I set up my wort chiller and all that good stuff, and get this cooled down and get it put into the fermentation bucket. So let me show you how I make my connections to run my wort, that hot wort, through my wort chiller and into a fermentation bucket. Okay, so what I'll do is I take some star sand and I pour it into this water in hose, and I like to run this through the core and all the hoses just to make sure everything is nice and clean, because your wort right now is a warm, sweet liquid. It would love to pick up bacteria if it could. So that's why I like to run some star sand through there. It's starting to come out of the other hose, so I know everything is full. Okay. So I'll hook that back up. So what I'll do is I'll stick this in the sink, right? So I'm gonna turn on the water, start getting that cooling. Okay, just to show you how the wort chiller works, so it's a plate chiller. Coming out of the still pot, goes into the inlet of the pump, from the out of the pump to the wort in on the plate chiller, then to the wort out, and that will go in the fermentation bucket. Okay, and the other connections is you got cold water in, cold water out, and you can regulate the flow of the cold water to get your wort at the proper temperature. Okay, so let's give her a final check on the temperature. I want somewhere below, at 80 or below, which it's right at 80, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so what we're going to do next, I'm using some 05 yeast. I'm going to just sprinkle it across the top. Got my star sand here. I'm going to star sand the lid. Put an airlock in it. Whoops. Put an airlock in it. And the directions on this recipe is for fermentation. I'm going to let it stay in the fermentation bucket for 1 week. Then I'm going to rack it over into a secondary fermenter. And it goes for 2 to 3 weeks. The longer you leave it in that secondary, probably the better off we are. And then after that, we're going to put it in a keg and enjoy. Okay? I'll put the recipe down in the description box. So I just want to thank you for stopping by. Enjoy the adventure. We'll see you next time.